What's up people, I'm Ryan, you're watching ReyReacts. Today we'll be looking at a new Rockstars video. It's called Moon Knight Episode 1 Mystery. Ammit History with Kang? When new Rockstars advertised this video in his Episode 2 breakdown, I knew I wanted to watch it. This is because Loki used to be my favorite TV show until Moon Knight came along. Even the slightest possibility that those two are related makes me really excited. I know that Kang had a form of himself called Pharaoh Rama-Tut, who used to obviously be an Egyptian pharaoh, and Ammit is an Egyptian god, so I can see where Erik Voss is making this connection. Let's just watch this video to find out more.
Rockstars, I'm Erik Voss, and Marvel's Moon Knight's most chilling contribution to the MCU yet has been Ethan Hawke's villain Arthur Harrow and the mythological being he channels Ammit, the Egyptian devourer of the dead, who judges people's past, presents, and futures upon cosmic scales, and upon failing that morality test, your soul gets... Tell him, Steven. And
yeah.
On the spectrum of Marvel villains, Harrow and Ammit fall somewhere between Thanos, who chaotically sentences half of everyone to death with a coin flip, and Kang, aka He Who Remains, and Loki, who, through the TVA, judges outlying violators according to some unseen transcript of their destinies. But it's the connection between Ammit and Kang that we really should take a closer look at, because the specific way they judge and sentence their defendants for future crimes is not only the same philosophy, essentially, but hard evidence in both Moon Knight and Loki point to a very possible shared history between these two figures, history that could explain why everyone
that sounds like a good idea
faces some kind of cosmic legal trouble. I mean, thank God we now got lawyers like She-Hulk and Matt Murdock on retainer. Okay, in Moon Knight Episode 1, Arthur Harrow drains an old woman's life force after a negative judgment.
I've been good my entire life.
I believe you, but the scales see everything. Perhaps it's something that lies ahead.
He later explains Ammit's judgment.
She grew weary of having to wait for sinners to commit their crime before punishing them. Would you wait to weed a garden till after the roses were dead? The justice of Ammit surveys the whole of our lives, past, present, future.
I like how scared Steven is.
What we will do.
Philosophically, this mirrors the function of the TVA and Loki, which prunes innocent people from merely unknowingly living their lives contrary to what He Who Remains had scripted for them in his sacred timeline. The TVA pruned Sylvie when she was a young girl in Asgard, presumably merely for existing, turning her into a self-fulfilling prophecy of a temporal terrorist.
What was my Nexus event? Why did you bring me in?
What does it matter?
It was enough to take my life from me and lead to all of this. Must have been important. So what was it?
I don't remember.
All of this pruning was directed by He Who Remains, who, like Ammit, passes these judgments with a divine insight into everyone's future.
I already know what's going to happen. I know it all, and I've seen it all.
However, He Who Remains was not ordained by any higher power to do this. He took initiative. He weaponized Alioth, ended the multiversal war between the Kang variants, and established the TVA's judicial hierarchy to execute his vision. The same goes for Ammit. When you think about it, in Egyptian mythology, Ammit is not the ultimate judge. That responsibility lies with Anubis, who holds the scales and weighs your heart against the weight of a feather, and if you fail that, then you are fed to Ammit. But in Harrow's tattoo, Ammit has taken the scales, clutching them in her mouth, in much more aggressive posture. So on one hand, we got one destiny judge who violently took the responsibility of assessing the fates of all of mankind using a weaponized Alioth and 31st century magic. And then on the other hand, another destiny judge who wants to snatch this responsibility from a god above her pay grade using a weaponized avatar and her ancient magic. Now, this connection gets especially interesting when you consider the various nods to ancient Egypt we saw collected as He Who Remains trophies.
The Pyramid of Giza, right?
These include the Pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx, pyramids that will appear in this Moon Knight series. In Loki, those Egyptian landmarks were nods to the way Kang kept in his kingdom of Chronopolis in the comics relics from his time in ancient Egypt when he used the pseudonym of Pharaoh Rama-Tut. He actually used the Sphinx as a vehicle to travel through time. It's actually how Nathaniel Richards got to ancient Egypt in the first place. He Who Remains and Loki reference this past life.
I've been dubbed many names by many people. A ruler, a conqueror, a jerk.
That ruler identity he was referring to
Pharaoh Rama-Tut.
his time as Pharaoh Rama-Tut in ancient Egypt. And in Moon Knight Episode 1, Arthur Harrow did drop this interesting line about Ammit's backstory.
But she was betrayed by indolent, fellow gods, by even her own avatar.
Betrayed by her own avatar. For any human avatar to be able to betray an Egyptian deity, to bypass a divine
that
power
seems
and collude with the other gods,
too powerful.
without Ammit noticing, that human must have been someone of remarkable intelligence, boldness, and power among an otherwise superstitious and God-fearing ancient Egypt society. So I think the likeliest suspect for that traitorous avatar, if it is ever revealed in this series or a future title, and if it is a familiar name that we have heard in the MCU before, is Pharaoh Ramatut, aka Kang the Conqueror. Nathaniel Richards could have used his temporal tech to transport himself back to ancient Egypt to lord over the society. Maybe the guy who even helped the ancient Egyptians become such a dominant civilization. By the way, I found it interesting that the Eternals film showed the ways they helped ancient Sumerians, Babylonians, ancient India, the Aztecs, even nods to ancient Greece and the ancient Norse with shoutouts to Thor and Odin, but completely skipped over ancient Egypt, almost as if Marvel could have some other origin story in mind to explain how comic book lore intersected with
Kang the Conqueror.
history. So Kang's experience with Ammit might have been what inspired him to retire from his life of boredom, ruling over human societies throughout history, and instead lord over all of time from his citadel, using a judicial system in the same philosophical framework as Ammit's judgment. And by betraying Ammit and helping the other members of the Ennead lock her away, he would guarantee that only he now has the power to judge people based on their destinies, and that no other divine interference could ever complicate his unilateral vision. And now as we look ahead, notice how both
seems like a really sound theory.
the same kind of threat. Ammit was unable to judge Stephen Grant, the scales never settling.
There's chaos in you.
Similarly, what did He Who Remains pose as the alternative to his stifling order?
That's the gambit. Stifling order or cataclysmic chaos.
Duos like Loki and Sylvie, Stephen Grant and Mark Spector. These are both chaotic dyads wrestling over control over each other. The same could be said for Wanda Maximoff. And in Multiverse of Madness footage, we are seeing two projections of Wanda. All three of these duos could be chaos magic incarnate. Maybe even what the MCU will call Nexus beings. Threats that do not fit into the mold designed by authorities like Kang, like Ammit, and whatever multiversal judicial body Dr. Strange,
the Illuminati, probably,
that all these higher powers of the MCU abide by and enforce over their jurisdictions. That Strange and Loki and Cersei are now running afoul of. I guess it'll all just depend, folks, on who exactly will be sitting in those other thrones in Multiverse of Madness.
Most probably Kang the Conqueror. At least I hope. Probably not, but still. People are talking about Tom Cruise Iron Man too. I'm not sure about that either. We really don't know, and I guess we'll just have to see the movie to find out. I mean, I found this story really cool that Ammit used to be friends with Kang, and then Kang betrayed her and set up his own judicial system that was based on her beliefs. I definitely don't think they'll explore that in Moon Knight. I think they'll probably explore that in Ant-Man 3, which has Kang as the villain, or Loki Season 2, whichever comes first. That's probably where they'll explore something like that, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see, right? Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Definitely subscribe to the channel, get me to 100 subscribers. Be sure to like the video to let YouTube know that I'm doing a good job, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.